Great. Thank you for joining us today. We're very happy to have with us Lee Martin. He's going to share a bit more about his organization for a start and how he cares for seniors.
Lutheran Homes Barossa is in actual fact an organisation now that is made up of a 120-bed aged care facility, a number of independent living units. We currently have 135 individual units, but we do have about 100 units, new units to be constructed over the next couple of years. We also have initiated home care services, as well as the Commonwealth Home Support Program. We have 200 staff. We're lucky enough to have about 80 volunteers that assist us.
And how would you describe your care philosophy and how you lead the organization?
The philosophy that we have here is all about maintaining or assisting to restore resident health and well-being. We do have a high Christian ethos throughout the facility. We actually employ 2 full-time chaplains that assist in the process of maintaining our Christian ethos and practices. It doesn't mean that you have to be Lutheran to come into the facility, but what we find is that over 80% of our residents are in actual fact from a Lutheran faith. And then the leadership I use whilst I declare that I am a Christian, I'm not of Lutheran faith, but the fact is that I use my, and I say this carefully, my 30-odd years military training and the fact that I've been a registered nurse for over 45 years, I tend to use my experiences in the way that I lead. A lot of people have actually referred to me as a caring, sharing leader because I do care about my people, I care about my residents and clients, and I don't keep secrets. I'm not very good at keeping secrets. And so I'm very transparent in my leadership and decision-making. Others have called me a very good risk taker because of some of the projects that I've taken the risk, and I'd use my robotic project that we have at the moment as my greatest risk, and fingers crossed, I think we're coming to the positive.
Great. Well, many a times when we are looking after older people, sometimes we might overcare and we want to shelter and protect them. How would you describe your personal care philosophy towards older people, and how can we balance making sure that they are safe and they won't fall versus making sure that they have a good quality of life and they're having fun?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because what we are finding more and more is that when residents come to us, they're not only necessarily coming to us for future care, it's usually the fact that they don't have anybody else to care for them. Because of their age, they're either totally disconnected from families or from the region that they grew up in. And so what we are finding is that a lot of our residents, in actual fact, start looking at our staff as being the family. And so I actually don't mind that to a degree, but there are dangers clearly in that. We certainly work through every process to ensure that we meet the residents' needs and or the family's needs. And sometimes the family needs might overrun the residents' needs. So we do advocate fairly strongly it's about the resident, not necessarily the family. But if the right documentations, as in the care directives, are written and agreed to by everybody, then that usually solves a lot of our issues. Then we find good, clean, clear communication in every sense of the word, be it either emails, letters, or meetings with families and so on. We're very quick to keep people informed of what the status of our facilities are, being particularly with the COVID sort of pandemic continuing. We're very quick to ensure that our residents and staff and families are kept informed of the status of things like that.
I think that's great. At this point of the interview, we want to kind of break for some stories. You must have many stories of how a person's life has changed or been influenced, or been inspired by living and being cared for by you and your team. Can you share one of your favorite stories of a resident that you remember?
Well, I'll share you the story closest to me, and it will probably sort of indicate parts of the previous question. I won't name the resident by his real name, so I'll call him Bill. I'll just have to remember to keep calling him Bill. So Bill has been with us now for probably 7 years. When Bill came to us, he was in his mid-70s, 75, 76. He came to us from a regional town where he looked after his mother, who suffered quite severe headaches and so on. This gentleman was quite recluse in his behaviour. He always thought he was a chef, and when he came to us, he started producing things like a master chef shirt and so on. No idea where he got them from. But he loves to cook. So Bill and I struck up a relationship, and believe it or not, this 82-year-old man, as he is now, has continually asked me to adopt him because I'm a better father figure than he ever had, because his real father, unfortunately, was an alcoholic and used to abuse him and his mother. And so Bill comes and sees me at least 2 or 3 times every day for a catch-up about where life's at, what's happening around the facility. He is very active around the facility. He loves to cook. He cooks with assistance on a Friday morning. He produces morning tea for all those who wish to eat the scones, the cakes, the pizzas, or whatever else he produces. And he is the character of our home. Everybody knows Bill, and Bill sometimes gets himself into strife because he knows all the staff very well. He knows all the residents even better, and sometimes he lets the staff know that maybe they should be looking after the residents better than what they are. Look, I love Bill. I do. And that's my caring nature that comes out. In my own little way, I probably spoil Bill occasionally. If I've got to drive down the street to do something, I'll take Bill with me and we'll have a cup of coffee, and things like that. I do know Bill's sister who lives interstate, and I keep her informed and up to date by the use of text messages and sending her photographs, which she loves to do. So that's me and Bill, but there are similar sort of stories with other residents, with other staff.
Mm. Well, it sounds like Bill has almost had an informal role being carved out for him, assistant to CEO.
Yeah, look, and he does. He does really appreciate what I do for him personally. And look, the staff and other families recognise what I do for him. And again, people appreciate the fact that I do take time for my residents, as in I take time to listen, to talk, and if I can, assist in any way.
Yes, I think it's important that residents feel a sense of empowerment to contribute into the environment that they are living in, and they are not just people that we care for, but people that we enable them to lead a better life, an independent life, and supporting them. And exactly like what you've shown to Bill, is also similar to some of the interesting models we've come across in Japan this year, where older people are trying to each look after another person in their community. Every older person is caring for someone else, whether an older person with person living with dementia or disabilities, you still have the ability to look after someone else. And I think that's what provides purpose and creates a more positive living environment for everyone.
Throughout our facility, we have resident meetings. And so because of the way our facility is constructed, we have 4 separate wings. And so we have representatives from those wings join our customer service committee, which is a subcommittee of our board of governance. And so our residents have direct contact with board members to give them feedback about whatever issues they've got throughout the facility. And then or every couple of months, we will have a whole whole facility meeting with residents and their families, and we will bring them up to date with whatever projects or happenings are going around the place. We have such a social program throughout our facility that no one could ever be bored. Because again, we're a Christian organisation. We have a church service every Sunday where we have anywhere between 60 and 100 people attending. And then we have church services during the week for those who maybe can't handle a large crowd. So even with our dementia people, we have a very active social program, and we use all sorts of tricks of the trade, I suppose, to keep our residents entertained.
I think that's so important, to be able to drum up that energy and to always make them, kind of feel a sense of excitement, even in everyday living. Well, let's talk about technology now. What are some of the technology implementations utilized to provide better care? And I know you're a big fan of robotics and new technology, so I'm sure you have plenty to share in this segment.
So let me start about technology. I'm a bit of a technology Nazi. When looking at what technology is available for aged care, particularly here in Australia at the moment, I'll use someone else's research. It's been demonstrated that there's about 420 different pieces of software available for aged care providers to use to run their facilities. 220 of those pieces of software are just clinical software. And so to put that into perspective, my current service requires the use of 30 different pieces of software to run our business. Not one piece of that software, those softwares talk to each other. So there is a lot of manual manipulation of data and so on. And then when we start talking about data, it comes down to who owns the data. And believe it or not, a lot of software owners believe that they can control the data, which is something that I disagree with. So I'm very active at the moment throughout the aged care sector in trying to push for some sort of standardization of software in the aged care facility and making software more user-friendly, and that data is the ownership of the facility it's collected in. So my next love is robots. I introduced robots to our facility over 4 years ago. I now have in excess of 10 robots roaming around our facility. The robots do back-of-house tasks. So I have what I refer to as truck robots. They lift and carry any sort of trolleys, so food trolleys, linen trolleys, clean clothes, dirty linen, etc. I have cleaning robots that clean shiny floors and carpets. Believe it or not, I have window cleaning robots. I also have comfort robots. So these comfort robots are things like Paro, the robotic seal, which is cute and cuddly. I have desk-mounted type robots that uses facial recognition, can speak any language, their arms move, and they encourage sort of exercises and through the use of AI can answer any question that's posed in any way, and they'll just keep answering questions as long as the person keeps answering. Today, I actually managed to start the operation of my ultraviolet light robot that now can travel around our facility, disinfecting corridors and large spaces with the use of UV light, which is guaranteed to kill COVID, gastroenteritis, and any other sort of virus. So we are looking forward to protecting our residents even further through infection control. And dare I say, by introducing robotics, we've reduced the number of touch points required around the facility because all our doors now are automated. So robots can automatically go through the doors, staff can automatically go through doors. They don't need to push buttons, to go up and down the lift because it's all automated. Yep. And so it reduces, again, touch points that ultimately spreads infections. So I just look forward to a greater involvement in the robotics. We need to, in actual fact, start developing robots more specific for aged care and health. And we need to start actually looking at even a greater area in disabilities in people's homes. I'm aware of the robotics in Japan, Singapore, Hong Kong. I'm working with providers in Singapore and Hong Kong, hopefully soon to be involved with Japan. And I'm certainly involved in research with Canberra University, Queensland University of Technology, Flinders University, Monash University. And so I currently also have an MOU between a robotics firm from Hong Kong, and we're their testing and trialling site here in Australia.
I think that's excellent. Well, in the area of robotics, we know that you've done a lot of collaborations and partnerships with technology players overseas. How is Australia's technology innovation space? Are entrepreneurs excited about the aging population? And do you see them trying hard to enter the space and being very excited about the aging population?
My answer's probably a bit guarded, but it's all about risk. And it's all about not only financial risk, there's probably a bit of reputation risk, etc., etc. And this is where over the last 12 months, I've probably presented at 14 different conferences. And by the time I've finished speaking, people are in absolute awe of how a standalone regional not-for-profit organisation has taken the risk and worked through the change management process to introduce robotics into the aged care space. They really are in awe of the fact that there is now a place that they can go and actually see the robots in action. The videos I show, people are just amazed at that the robots are active and doing what I keep saying. So when I talk to other CEOs or CFOs, they say, so how much did it cost? And I said, well, I was one of the lucky ones. I actually gained a grant to get my first lot of robots, and they were quite expensive 4 years ago. But the robots today are far less expensive and are far more technically advanced, but can do the same thing. They are smaller, which is always a good thing. But the thing is it's the fact of getting the CEOs to realise that by utilising robots, it is not about replacing staff. It's about supporting the staff. It's about the robots supporting the staff in manual handling type tasks that a human doesn't really need to do. A human doesn't need to push a trolley from one end of a facility to the other just to deliver it to somewhere else. A human doesn't really need to push a wheelchair from point A to point B just because the resident needs to get to the hairdresser. It can all be done by an appropriate robot. It'll be safer, more efficient, and by doing that, reduce the issues with work cover, injuries, and give you a very rapid return on investment when you see your work cover insurance rates drop dramatically.
I think that's a great point. And on this note, I also want to ask, with the use of all these technologies, how do you manage to use data analytics to enable you to track quality of life and quality of care in your facilities? What have these technologies done or enabled you to do in terms of finding out the data of and enabling more operational efficiency and happy life?
So I'm currently going through an IT transitional phase. So I'm actually currently working on a project where I've got a couple of consultants working on what is the preferred suite of IT software that an aged care facility needs to actually meet the data collection and data analysis that's required by not only I as the CEO of the facility, but what government require in their reporting. Look, the introduction of artificial intelligence and Power BI and business intelligence and all these sorts of things, I'm gaining access to those, but a lot of my current software can't handle it. And so at the moment, all our data collection is very manual, but we need to, hopefully in the next 12 months, get to speed with doing that through appropriate software to make life easier. The fact is, in regional, rural and remote areas, the workforce is just dwindling. People are not wanting to come into aged care at the best of time, but it's even more difficult to find more qualified people to come into aged care in regional, rural and remote places. And so we've just got to get smarter. And this is what I'm putting out to universities, to TAFE colleges, to the technical people out there. We need to start training more people that will come into the aged care sector with a greater level of IT and analytical ability to use the software to meet the needs of developing data tools and coming up with the reports required.
I think that's great. And, that brings us to our question about talent development in the sector too. You've touched on a bit about what you see are potential future skills that we require coming into the sector. Currently, what can we be doing as a sector to increase awareness that such a sector exists to people outside of the aged care industry? What have you done, or what do you think could be done further in order to entice talent to come into this sector?
Yeah. Again, it's not an easy question to answer. I've been developing this question that I've been wanting to put out there to the sector. And it comes down to vision in a leader. Is vision developed, or can you actually learn how to develop a vision? A lot of people have called me a visionary because of some of the things that I've done in the past and some of the things that are currently happening. I don't see myself as a visionary as such. I see myself more as a disruptor, as in I like getting out there and testing the sector about, look, if I can do it here at Tanunda Lutheran Home in the introduction of robotics and the other things that we've done, why can't the big guys do it? Why can't the big guys actually stand up and say to software people, stop producing more of the same stuff and just let's come up with a suite of software that meets the aged care requirement and move on? So I like talking to researchers. Researchers don't like talking to me because they see that their jobs are under threat because of the use of AI. I don't believe that'll happen. We'll always need to have research, but I need researchers to look into the real issue we have with aged care, and that's our workforce. Our workforce is our biggest issue. Forget about the regulations and standards and everything else. We don't have enough people to work for us. And so we've got to come up with smarter ways, better ways of employing our people to do what is needed to look after our residents. And so I really get out there spreading the story that the aged care sector is advancing so quickly that you really do have to think on your feet, and you need to take a risk. Don't be scared of taking a risk. I take risks. I occasionally make a mistake. If I make a mistake, I own up to my mistake and I learn from my mistake and I try again. And I think in today's age of evolving leaders, there's a lot of risk-averse people, and I don't think that they're going to survive. We need far more leadership taught at grassroots levels, and universities could start inviting people like myself to go and talk to students about what is leadership. And I'm talking about your registered nurses and people doing MBAs need far more leadership skills, both at the student level and also in the workplace.
I think those are excellent points. Well, one last question. How do you motivate and develop talent in your organization?
I'm blessed. I have I'm blessed in a number of ways. Firstly, I've been in my position here in the facility now for over 9 years. I've made a lot of changes over that 9 years, but I've been able to develop my executive team from within the ranks that I've got. I've been able to educate and further develop my executive team to the degree where my executive team now run the organisation. I work on the business. I spend more time out of my office than I do in my office. I involve my executive at the highest level every week. We have an executive meeting. They assist in making the executive decisions. I'm very transparent about my vision and about my strategic planning processes. My executive are very involved with that. And I offer and provide training and exposure to my executive team, as I do all my staff, going to conferences, having external training, internal training, etc. I don't necessarily have a training budget, but I'm one of the old-fashioned ones who sort of say that 4% of your budget should be allocated to a training budget. Sometimes I keep to that, sometimes I don't, but I never shy away from reducing training. Training at every level is mandatory in my party. And so to me, it's about, if you give them the training, if you're transparent, if you communicate to them in a polite and a nice way, professional way, things will happen. We don't have the perfect culture, but we do have a very good culture where our staff are here for the right reason, and they're here to look after the residents, and they accept the umpire's decision, as in, if a change is coming, they know that they've got to swing with the change, because it's not necessarily the CEO who's enforcing the change, it's coming from government, etc., etc.
I think that's very important. Well, on that note, thank you so much for joining us on the interview today. Thank you for your candidness and sharing, and as well as your perspective on the future of care leadership.
Thank you very much for the invitation to be here today. I really enjoyed the experience.
Thank you.
CarePage Business is the only feedback platform designed for the health and aging sectors. With CarePage Business, you can uncover powerful customer experience insights, monitor resident or client feedback and complaints in a single, easy-to-use platform, and get the insights you need to drive continuous improvement in services and facilities.